Hello, it's Richard Herring here, and I'm delighted to introduce this interview I did with the marvellous comedian Tim Vine, one of the best one-liner comedians, I think, in the world, but also brilliant work with props and longer sections with fantastical ideas. I think I say in the interview, but the pen behind the ear sketch he does is one of my favourite bits of comedy of all time. This is him choosing his most influential moments of comedy. Some quite surprising ones in there. Some people I had not really been massively aware of myself. Some lovely clips. It's just a way of understanding the journey that Tim has taken as a comedian and who influenced him. This was all recorded at the Bristol Old Vic as part of the Slapstick Festival in January 2019, before the plague. Though Tim is a little bit ill. I'm not saying he started the whole thing, but is that a coincidence? I don't know. It's a happier time when we were allowed to go out, and I hope you will enjoy it as much as I enjoyed doing it. Absolutely fabulous fun, great choices, and a nice interview with the man himself. I think we find out a little bit about him as well.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your host this afternoon, Richard Herring.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Hello, Bristol. Lovely to be back again. I mean, I was just here this afternoon, so it's not been that long. I had a lovely time chatting to the goodies. I hope if you were there, you enjoyed that. It was good, wasn't it? This is going to be great too. I would just like to apologise to anyone who came to see this show because of the cover of Bristol Life. This guy is not turning up. Very handsome, isn't he? Look at that. I'm thinking of just wearing this around my face for... At one point I must have looked something like that. Imagine that. Do you fancy me now, girls? It's all right, I'm 52 this year, it's all over. As is our guest, in fact, for tonight. So we'll crack straight on because we're going to hear about his comedy choices, his favourite clips. He's the king of the one-liners. He's probably best known for being Eric in Jetpack Willie. That's why we're all here today. But will you please welcome the incredible Tim Vine, ladies and gentlemen. Come on in, sit down.
Hello. I thought I'd do something visual at the top there. Oh, this is nice, isn't it?
It's lovely.
Yes.
It's lovely. And you haven't played the Bristol Old Vic. Oh, you've done...
No, I haven't. No, I've not played here, no.
Yeah, it's a
But it looks nice. It looks like you've got a friendly face, sir. No, the guy on next to you, yeah.
So, we're going to talk to you about your favourite comedy, but we'll talk a little bit about you first before we crack into that.
And then you? Will we talk about you at all?
We can talk about me if you like. It's not so interesting for today. I mean, you until recently held the Guinness World Record for most jokes told in an hour.
Yeah, certainly. By recently, if you mean about 2012.
I do.
Well, I don't know how long I held that for because I held it for a bit.
Yeah.
And then someone else got it. I did 499 jokes in an hour, and then someone else. Was it 300?
No, it's 499.
And someone else got it in, I think, in Australia. And then someone went on a sort of campaign, proving that this guy had, in fact, read it all or something.
Okay.
And he was stripped of the title, and so it briefly came back to me again.
Yeah.
And then it went to someone in India who told about 600 jokes.
Wow.
I know, yeah. And I'm convinced that they didn't watch because what you do is there wasn't no one from the Guinness Book of Records was actually at the event. I mean, they're not stupid. When I did, so I did all the jokes, and you're supposed to film it and then send them the tape. And we had several different people counting, and we had about 10 people counting. They all came up with different numbers of what the jokes were.
Okay.
Because it's hard to know sometimes where is the joke. For example, if I say, so I ate this chess set. It was horrible. I took it back to the shop. I said, that's stale, mate. He said, are you sure? I said, checkmate. Now that, from your response, is 1.5 jokes, but that could be seen as 2 jokes. Well, I always thought that was 1 joke, but actually it could be. So those sorts of grey areas. So as a result, 10 different numbers. So we went for one particular number. We said the lowest number that they had, which was okay, 499, and we gave it to the Guinness Book of Records. And very quickly they came back and said, yeah, 499. And I thought they've not watched all of that. They watched about 12 minutes of that. I thought, yeah, let's just take their word for it.
Was it gutting not to get 500, just that 499?
Well, it wasn't, because the previous record was 362.
Okay, that's pretty good.
So by someone whose name I've always remembered from Estonia, called Erkki Koulu. And there's the name of a stand-up comedian, if ever I heard of one.
Yeah, well, he gets 1 straight away. We're just
exactly,
saying his name.
Yeah.
That's not fair. I mean, I'm very impressed with anyone who can write one-liners. I managed to write.
But you write one-liners.
I do. I write about 1 a year, and then I feel quite happy, as you'll know if you've seen my 10-minute set. Because they come up a lot. In fact, I'll talk about it. I gave you a joke once. You gave me a joke once, which I use, and I think about you every time I go in.
Does it work still?
Yes, it does work, whereas mine didn't work for you. It's because it was the joke I'd done for ages anyway. I think it was an old Lee and Herring joke, and I'll do the bit. And it was just the setup, and you came and suggested the joke, which was Jerry Hall had some advice, girls, on how to keep your man, so that's going to be worth listening to. Prick up your ears. And then you said, that's not the advice.
When I write rude stuff, I give it to someone else.
Which is
that right?
It works. It really works. Whereas my joke, like this, I wrote a joke,
yes,
and I couldn't. It's not really my kind of thing. So I sent it to Tim, and this is as best I can remember it. Right, my great grandfather was a fishmonger. My grandfather was a fishmonger. My father was a fishmonger, and now I am a fishmonger. I guess I've inherited the selfish gene.
Oh, very good. Very good. And did I tell you that was not? It didn't work?
You did. You said you tried it and it didn't work, and that's the first time I've tried it in front of an audience.
Well, I'll be honest. I sold it to Erkki Koulu.
It's very hard to get the really good one. A, because everyone's trying to come up with one-liners as a comedian, so a lot of them are either derivative of something else or.
But you shouldn't get hung up trying to write a good one. Okay. That's fatal.
Okay.
That's a very depressing place to be if you're with a pad of paper thinking I've got to write a good one-liner. You can't do that. That's no way to live at all. No. You've got to say to yourself, I'm going to write 10 jokes. Yeah. And then I'm going to play darts for the other 9 hours of the day. But I mean, the thing about it is that if you write a joke and if you write 10 jokes and then you just try them all out, then maybe some of them might work and maybe some of them might not. I was talking to Milton Jones, as I'm sure you know. Milton Jones is a very good, excellent comedian and does one-liners, not entirely unlike myself. And I was saying to him that actually, in a way, the truth is I don't know how to write a funny joke. And we're all like this, comics. We don't know how to write a funny joke. Yeah. Because if we did, we would do that every single time. Yes. What we do now is write a joke, a structure of a joke. And then the rest is kind of just, it's up for grabs and you get surprised. That's one of the lovely things about writing new shows and stuff, is that you try things out and something will totally surprise you. Yeah. Both ways, actually. You think, I can't wait for this, and you tell it, and the audience go, nothing at all there. Don't even realise where we're supposed to laugh at that. And then other ones, you'll get a really big laugh, and you think, great.
And do you find that comics help each other out? As you helped me and I failed to help you, do you find deliberately almost trying to sabotage your career with my joke? Do you find, because often it can just be the matter of a word, can't it? I've often got a joke in my set and I'll do, I was doing a show for a couple of years and then I suddenly just changed one word in the joke and suddenly a joke I always thought was quite good got the response I thought it deserved. It was not a significant word really, but suddenly the joke worked. Do you find that tinkering helps, or do you?
Yes, and sometimes I've told jokes literally the wrong way around. So I've been doing a joke where I thought I'd been doing the setup, then the punchline, and it's not been getting much. And then I've literally just told the whole thing the other way around, and then it's worked. Yes. Okay. and also in situations where it also hasn't worked. So all different combinations, Yeah.
And you've won the Edinburgh Best Joke Award twice and come second twice, is that right? And they're good jokes, though. Do you remember which jokes won and which jokes didn't win?
Well, I don't remember the second ones because I'm not sure whether I don't know whether they have second place. Do they? Is that
They do have, yeah.
Do they? All right.
They're good, the second place ones.
Oh, well, there's some very good jokes every year as I read them. But, yeah, so the first one was, I've just been on a once-in-a-lifetime... No, sorry, I haven't done
Not
that.
very good at telling jokes.
I can't tell jokes. Just been on a once-in-a-lifetime holiday. I'll tell you what, never again. Someone decided that was the best joke at the end of the fridge. 2010. And in 2014, I've decided to sell my Hoover. Well, it was just collecting dust.
And the second place one I liked was the one about watching DVDs with...
Yeah. Well, you see, interestingly, it's funny you should say about that one. That one, and I had another one that was a second place one, which was multi-storey car parks. Sorry, crime in multi-storey car parks. That's wrong on so many different levels. Yeah. And... but I then discovered, as we do with wordplay, this is myself, Milton Jones, Stuart Francis, and some of us, that you have to keep an eye on each other's stuff a bit, or at least sometimes maybe you don't even want to keep an eye on each other's stuff because it's too uncomfortable to watch. So in case you go, oh, I've done that as well, and we have to have a conversation, and I normally have to drop it or whatever. But that one, multi-storey car park one, Stuart Francis was doing a different one that led to that.
Okay, yeah.
That punchline, so I stopped doing that.
Okay.
And the same with the back-to-back. Yeah. DVDs. Milton was doing something similar, so I stopped doing it as well. But remind me because I've stopped doing it.
Me and my girlfriend watched 4 DVDs back to back. Luckily, I was the one facing the television.
That's it. Yeah.
It's good. It's good. They're classy, you know, and because. Like a lot of puns are often not very good and not very when in real life, you know. I mean, people are.
Well, often when they come out
obvious.
of nowhere, yes, and often it's people tend to. I think there's sometimes people groan at puns partly because they feel they've heard it before.
Yeah,
it's partly that because I mean jokes mainly are about surprise. So, you know, so there's nothing wrong with puns per se.
No. Well, it's that. I think when you can trick a comedian with the misdirection. I mean, there's the magician thing really with comedy, isn't it? You're misdirecting. Yeah. And I think when you can trick a comedian, which the guys you've mentioned, Booby Graffer, I think is fantastic.
Yeah.
Misdirecting and even
absolutely.
And that's
one of my early mentors.
Really?
Booby Graffer. Yeah.
I mean,
the first when I was working in an office in Croydon, doing the last time I had a normal job. Well, a job actually, and I was doing an open spot at the Comedy Store, and I did 5 minutes of my silly one-liners. And Boothby was there, and he said to his management company when he was about to do a tour of student unions that he'd like me to support him. And so that was the point at which I thought, oh, right, okay, I was offered these 30 gigs, maybe I'll give up this office job that I don't really care that much about anyway. So that was kind of, you know, and watching him. The thing about Boothby, which is brilliant, was that he would always walk on stage as though he were walking back for the encore. There was this confidence about Boothby, which was just really wonderful to watch, because you just think, God, he just would sort of swagger on, like he was coming back, having stormed it for an hour. But it was how he started, you know. It was brilliant. Yeah,
that's interesting. I mean, there's so much about confidence, even if you're playing a low, what's the word I'm looking for? A low esteem character. That's not the right word.
Low status.
A low status character. You know, you need the confidence, especially if you're in low status, really, because people are more scared. I'm not doing one now. So.
Well, you're right, and also doing lots of silly. Normally, silly comedians are low status. Yeah. And you have to. But you're right. There has to be a certain amount of front in it. Yeah. So although it's very silly and sort of throwaway, you've got to look like you do believe it yourself. Yeah. Otherwise, the audience won't. It's a little bit of a kind of tightrope. The audience, once they're all on board with the world of silly, then it's great. But you know, if they think I'm not going for this, then you're in trouble. Yeah. Then you really are just a bloke reading out words, and that's terrible.
So we're going to. We're going to look at some of your favourite choices of comedy in lots of different fields.
Yes, just say on the subject of the because although these are the title is top comedy moments, they're not necessarily my top 10 favourite comedy moments ever. I say that because there's 2 sketches in which I'm in, and I don't want you to think... I don't want you to think that I've chosen these like the guy who went on Desert Island Disc and chose 6 of his own compositions. Yeah. So it's more that they mean something to me, I suppose.
Good.
Yeah.
I thought we'd start by me choosing...
And they are funny, hopefully.
Me choosing my favourite Tim Vine comedy moments.
Oh, OK.
We're not going to see these, because I haven't prepped anyone with this. Right. There's a couple of years where our Edinburgh Fringe shows were back-to-back, weren't there? So I thought...
Yes, luckily I was the one facing the audience.
So I did see a lot of your Edinburgh shows, and I saw that one of the shows 3 or 4 times. It was very enjoyable. But my favourite Edinburgh moment of yours is when you did not come to the Edinburgh Fringe. No offence, but one of the greatest things that's ever happened to the Edinburgh Fringe, there was a year you didn't come to the Edinburgh Fringe,
yes.
And there was a big billboard at the bottom of Cowgate, which everyone walks past at some point during the festival, and you booked that billboard.
I did, yes.
For the entire run of the festival, put a massive poster of you going and saying, Tim Vine is not appearing at this year's Fringe. Yes. And however much that cost you, I'm sure it's less than the price of doing an Edinburgh show.
It was £4,000.
Was it? Much less than the cost of doing an Edinburgh show, yeah. And got you, I'm sure, more work and more publicity than if you'd...
Well, I mean, it was a lot less work than getting a show together. And you are right. It's something that people mention to me more than, you know...
Yeah, it was fantastic. And it was one of those things, you walk past it, you know, at least once a day, and it would make you laugh every day. And during the Edinburgh Fringe, that is a tonic as well, because everyone, especially comedians, are very depressed. And I think, especially during that time, and I think one of the greatest routines that anyone has ever done on stage, and I would ask you to do it now, but it might take some time, it is Pen Behind the Ear, which, if people haven't seen it, do Google it and do watch it. It's phenomenal. I've never actually seen it live.
Have you not?
No, I think I've only seen it on DVD. And
do you know, you're setting it up as though we're now suddenly going to put the music... I haven't got the music, I haven't got a box of pens. No. You just have to imagine how great it could be.
It's a man throwing pens until one of them goes behind his ear.
Yeah, I throw, and they sort of, you know, one eventually lands behind my ear.
Now, can I ask some behind-the-scenes questions about this routine? You don't have to answer.
No.
You must have to deliberately miss for the first 3 or first 10 or 20 times, or has it ever happened that you've done it in one? It's
not quite as simple as deliberately missing. It's more that I know it doesn't matter too much if it doesn't land early. So there's not a lot of desperate trying. But the problem is the arm gets into a bit of a muscle memory, and when you find, you know, it may land and then fall off, and it gets a big ooh from the audience, you know, and you think, oh, that's great, and then later on you're thinking, God, what do I do for another one of those, you know? And you're there throwing these things, and they go, and sometimes they're not even close anymore. And then I sometimes get worried. And so
what's the longest it's taken?
Well, the piece of music is 45 seconds long, and the longest I've done is 8 times around the music. But I know it sounds ridiculous, but it actually is the thing that takes the pressure off is knowing that I really am not going to walk away from this. Right. So that, in that sense, you feel like, well, it's good. It will happen eventually. Yeah. So if it will happen eventually, then what's to worry about? I mean, it's
3 weeks.
Yeah. I think it was in Australia actually that the eight ones, because at the time the audience didn't really like me anyway, so it was compounded by the fact that he's doing something different from these terrible jokes now. He's throwing a pen at his head over and over again, and even when it landed, I think they had enough of me.
Plus, you're upside down, so it must have been falling out all the time.
Yes, exactly. Well, I enjoyed that.
How dare you groan at me when Tim Vine is on the stage? Right. So let's have those. Those are my 2 favourite. But I have to say the gags that you do are phenomenal. And the songs and the one-man show, those old Edinburgh shows especially, were just very inventive, and had a little team of gang, didn't you?
When did you last do? Because you stopped for a bit. I mean,
I did one a couple. I did Frig I'm 50, which was the same year we turned 50 in 2017. So I didn't do last year,
in
but I've only done one in the last 4, but I'd done all the previous 11 or 12, and then
Right, wow.
and then a couple of years. There's a couple of years I missed at the beginning of the.
When were we this back-to-back?
I think it was 94, 95, that sort of time.
95.
Yeah.
I wasn't there 94.
Okay.
So
You were doing
that
the
wasn't
lean.
me.
You were doing the lean.
Oh yeah. You got to lean to the left,
Yeah.
etc. Yeah, but
That's why that didn't make my list of Tim Vine favourite. It was good though. You've got to see it in context. So let's start looking. I'll just see how we're doing with time.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
We're all right. It's okay. In fact, we've talked for too long. It's been joyful. Your first clip, and this is,
Yes.
I'm surprised to say this because I'm a big fan of Peter Sellers, but I've not seen The Party, and this is...
well, I thought we'd go straight in with something totally non-controversial. Peter Sellers, blacked up as an Indian.
Yeah.
Not something that someone would do now, but Peter Sellers is this film. Apparently, The Party is a very funny film. If you haven't seen The Party, it is absolutely brilliant. But apparently, it was inspired by his love of silent films. Some of these things that I've chosen, I've had a little bit of in the back of my mind thinking this is a slapstick comedy festival, so I didn't want to choose 10 clips of stand-up. So his love of silent films made him want to do something like that sort of thing. And so apparently they worked out quite a lot of what went on in this film, which is basically this guy who ends up at a party that he wasn't really invited to, Peter Sellers, and stuff happens, which is mainly him doing great sort of physical things. This always used to make me laugh as a child. It still makes me laugh now, and it's simply a moment from that party.
Okay, let's have a look at the first clip. How exciting.
Did you ever hear one about the trapeze artist who got divorced? Caught his wife in the act.
It's terribly funny.
Yeah, it's been terribly funny for about 20 years.
Very good. Yeah, were you a big fan of Peter Sellers?
Yeah, very much so, yeah. And my dad, sadly I lost my dad last year. My dad was a very big influence on all my sort of comedy growing up and stuff. And we used to love the Pink Panther and Clouseau and A Shot in the Dark being a fantastic film as well, with lots of that physical stuff where it's really, you know, in the wrong hands, I suppose, it just wouldn't work. But him sort of, you know, falling over with snooker cues and stuff going on.
In Steve Martin's hands, it didn't work.
Well, Steve Martin, well, in The Jerk it worked, but...
Yeah, no, but he did Clouseau, didn't he?
Oh, I never saw that, actually. That was brilliant. I never saw him do Bilko either, which may be also...
Yes, he did. He did make a little habit of treading on the graves of the greats.
I suppose so. You're saying this.
Let's not be mean. Let's not be mean. But
no, I loved Peter Sellers, yeah. And,
it was interesting because that was, again, it feels like there wasn't as much content in those days for a young comedy fan, that things came along, and the Pink Panther films especially, which are more of our genre, were were like a massive deal, weren't they?
Yeah, yeah.
Did you go back and listen to the Goons and stuff as well? Or
Yeah, oh yeah, I love the Goons. Yeah, and in fact, my dad used to often quote the Goons. 3 times world trouser champion and all that sort of thing. Harry Seacombe and Spike Milligan, obviously. Just lots of that. Just that utter madness of craziness of the Goons and stuff. So that style of comedy, and the stuff from the Goons, that sort of sense of the comedy from the Goons is brought into the Pink Panther films by Peter Sellers to a degree. And I also love all those clips from It'll Be Alright in the Night when he'd be there with Diane Cannon and he'd be going, I want a room, and she's going, a room? And then she just finding him hilariously funny. She can't sort of, I can't do it. And just, and he's going, no, you'll be fine. It's just that whole thing of him just being hilariously funny and everyone just cracking up around him the whole time.
Yeah. And
he's a very funny man.
Yeah.
He was a genius, wasn't he?
It was, do you remember, it was one of the first times someone died that I was like, massively into, and we were quite young when he died. I guess you and I are born in the same year, as I've said.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and I was on.
He was in a hotel, wasn't he?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was on holiday in France at the time, and I kind of.
What year was it?
Must have been there.
Anyone?
No? 1980.
1980.
Yeah, I was going to say early 80s. It was 1980.
1980. Was that not the same year that? Or was it? I was going to say, when was John Lennon?
John Lennon was also there, yeah. What a year.
Yeah, blimey, crikey.
Wow, I thought this was a night of comedy.
Yeah. Who else died that year? Hattie Jakes.
Oh, fuck, it was a terrible year. A terrible year.
I didn't even know we'd lost her. Well, she was great as well. Sykes. Oh, God. I mean, this is why you can't really make a list of just 10 things. I think generally, if you're a fan of comedy, you probably like most comedians.
Yeah.
I think that's probably if you're looking for the fun and stuff, it's probably it'd be a much shorter list to say Tim's least favourite.
Could have done that. But it's interesting because that's an interesting thing to say, because I think for some comedy fans, your interests narrow, and then they say, I only like this person, and anyone else is terrible.
Maybe they do. Well, that's not me.
And a lot of comedians are like that as well, I think. A lot
you
of
think?
comedians,
Oh, right, okay.
I'm a big fan of all kinds of comedy.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think that's quite rare. Because I think a lot of comedians don't like to, not a lot, but some don't like to other people getting the laughs or don't like to laugh at other people.
Well, listen, you go for it. Don't they? You mean?
Well, I think they
don't even like to watch other people getting laughs.
They know so much about it that they sit there and sort of observe it and go, rather than laugh.
Well,
But I'm a laugher still. I still enjoy.
Yeah, but do you know what? It's a funny thing on the circuit when you're doing loads of comedy clubs, isn't it? When you have that thing of there are some acts where you're always a punter watching them.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You watch them and there's some. So your favourite ones, you watch them and you roar with laughter every time.
Yeah.
And then the others you can see are brilliant and you appreciate what they do, but it doesn't tickle you in quite the same way. But the ones who you love, you think, oh great, Noel James is on or whatever, whoever, and then you just laugh your head off,
Yeah, terrific. And so let's move on. This is a film I do know, and I was quite obsessed with this film. Presumably it's the same one. There might be two, but Top Secret, which is the Zucker brothers. Is it after Airplane or was it the follow-up to Airplane?
Well, that's a very good question, and there'll be people who know the answer to that.
It was after Airplane, wasn't it?
After, was it? Do you know what I think one of the main problems with this film is? I think in many ways it's better than Airplane. I think Top Secret is a really dull name for it.
Yeah.
I think they should have come up with a better name for the film, weirdly.
Yes. Well, I remember I saw this one with my brother, which is unusually.
I think I saw it with my brother as well, yeah.
Sorry, with my brother.
Yeah, with your brother.
Yeah, he loved it. It was a bit of an undiscovered gem, I think, and there's a lot of brilliant sight gags, especially in this.
Loads of great stuff. And the opening scene, do you know the film Top Secret?
Of course they do. Look at these
the opening scene where there's a sort of Beach Boys style music video.
Yes.
And it's basically saying, girls who like surfing and 12-bore. So it's like it shows all these girls running down the beach with rifles and they're shooting things while surfing. It's a slightly strange combination, but it's very funny. Where do you think that was filmed?
I do not know.
Anyone?
Western Superman, they've gone very parochial here.
Oh.
That's the only
Well,
bit of sea we know around here. I mean, it's an estuary, really, but it's the closest we got.
If you've seen the film, I was hoping you would have guessed somewhere in America. But anyway, having said Western Superman, it's no longer that interesting that it was filmed in Newquay. But anyhow, and it's the best bit of work. Believe it or not, the star is Val Kilmer.
Yes.
It's the best thing he ever did, in my view. He is brilliant in it. And Omar Sharif is in it. Very, very good in it as well. Hilarious. Peter Cushing's in it.
The guy who plays the sort of handsome guy from
Oh.
Blonde guy is now... I bumped into him, and he works as an agent for other actors now.
Who's that?
I can't remember his name, but, he's a nice guy. Anyway... Oh, no, there's no time to tell you his name, because we have to...
Right, okay.
Of course I know it. We have
Anyway,
to look at...
you were right to talk about sight gags. As with Airplane, lots of brilliant sight gags.
Yeah.
This is full of lots and lots of... And this is a point at the film when I remember just being just fully into laughing at these sight gags one after the other. And I think this is just so clever, this, and brilliant. I love the amount of work that has gone into this little visual trick.
Okay.
Your attitude is being noted, Mr. Rivers.
If that was your idea of being an ambassador, we're headed for a lot of trouble.
Der Zug, der jetzt an Gleis 3 steht, kann uns alle überraschen.
Echwilch mit der Stall in der Bürgenplatz. I want a Schnauzer with my Wiener Schnitzel.
Very good.
Yeah, so I remember, the thing when Airplane first came out, which was the first of those type of films that I saw, with Leslie Nielsen, and just all that, Don't Call Me Shirley stuff. I just thought it was just completely up my alley, all of it. I just thought it was wonderful, fantastic.
Did you ever see Kentucky Fried Movie, which was a slightly...
No, I haven't.
It was more of a sketch thing. It was slightly saucy.
Right.
There was some...
I think I've seen the trailer.
Yeah. It was the first X film I ever saw. I saw it in a double bill in the Wells Odeon.
In what year would that be?
That would have been... I was too young to go.
I was going to say.
I was about 14.
Right.
And it was a double bill with The Other Cinderella, which was a soft-core porn version of Cinderella. And my favourite...
Definitely two different lists of films people are making.
And my favourite thing, there was lots of favourite things about The Other Cinderella, but watching it in Wells with probably like a scene in Life of Brian where everyone had gone in saying, yes, I'm over 18, I'm over 18. Right. So I probably had an audience of 15-year-olds. At one point, just a voice at the back shouted out, "Pert nipples!" Which stayed with me to this day. That's the main thing. But there's some good stuff in Kentucky Fried Movie.
Yeah, I must look out for that.
Do have a look. Those guys are incredible, and there's been so many sort of bad copies of Airplane or attempts to do Airplane and the Zucker Brothers stuff. Some of them by the Zucker Brothers or by themselves.
Yeah, and it's a weird thing, isn't it? Because films are supposed to be, I guess, they've got to be an hour and a half kind of minimum, or hour and 20 or something. Yeah. So at times, it's a great skill to be able to make that sort of comedy have a story working as well.
Yes.
Because you could run out of steam quite quickly otherwise. But it really works in Top Secret, and obviously in Airplane. I think it works in Airplane 2, but then it looks a little bit slightly less in Airplane 2. Yeah. But I mean, a lot of those films you can dip in and watch 10 minutes of them, can't you? Yeah. But what ones the ones things like Police
Squad, yeah.
I didn't really.
Did you not? Oh, I love the TV series Police Squad was.
Oh, that's right,
was
Police
awesome.
Squad. Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh no, I completely love that.
Naked Gun was.
Brilliant. No, I was trying to think of what's the Police Academy.
Oh, Police Academy.
Yeah, where they sort of were trying to do the kind of that sort of the jokey thing as well, but no, Police Squad. If you've not seen Police Squad, I'm sure you've seen all these things, but Police Squad is a fantastic series.
Well, they're dense with. I mean, I was talking to the goodies earlier, and I'm showing off, and their shows were dense with jokes, but I think that even more so, the Zucker Brothers stuff is so, you can watch it 10 times and see new things.
See new things, exactly that, yeah. So they put little things in that they feel like, you almost feel like are just for them.
Yeah.
You think, oh, look at that there, and all that, so, yeah.
Oh, I must watch Top Secret again. I've missed that. So,
but another one of my favourite lines from Top Secret is when he gets a call, the German commandant, and he goes, how is the prisoner? And he goes, well, let me know if there's any change in his condition. And he hangs like that. And the bloke goes, how is he? He goes, he's dead.
So Sandy Powell is the next choice.
Yes. Now, I don't know an enormous amount about Sandy Powell, but I do love the... this is him doing a crappy kind of ventriloquist act. It's got a huge charm of the. I mean, he's an extremely funny man, but there's just something about this clip. I've always loved it, and I just think it's him. It's just he's obviously got very funny bones. I think the woman in it is his wife in real life, yeah. Well, watch it. You'll see what I mean. It's very funny.
Let's see.
Now, tell me, my little man, how are you this evening? I'll be all right in a minute. He says he's very well. So you're very well, are you? And tell me, have you any brothers and sisters? I've got clean brothers and sisters.
Here, I say, I saw your lips move there.
You mind your own business.
Well, I did. I was only standing here.
My
down
own
there. It was
flesh and blood. Now, don't interfere, please. Every man to his own trade. I'm talking to my little friend. Now, tell me, sonny, was your father a soldier? Oh, no. He wasn't less than good.
Yes, I don't eat meat either.
And when he joined the army, have it wrong?
I said I don't eat meat either.
Meat?
No.
We're not talking about meat. We're talking about his father.
Oh, no. Well, he said his father was a vegetarian.
No, what he said. No. I was here. I can prove it. But, I beg your pardon. I think I've given the game away. No, he said his father was a Presbyterian.
Oh, did he?
I'm nearer to him than you are.
Well, what's the difference between a vegetarian and a Presbyterian?
Well, a vegetarian, of course, they don't eat meat.
No.
But his father, a Presbyterian, that's his belief.
Oh, I see. And what are you?
I'm a ventriloquist.
That's your belief.
I love that she was just really laughing at it all the way through.
Yes,
they were really enjoying themselves. I enjoy.
Yeah. And I keep meaning to look, see, find out a bit more about Sandy Powell because I really don't know that much about him really. But it's just very, very charming. He's just obviously a very funny man. I just love that sort of. It's being deliberately rubbish at something, and it's very charming, very, very funny.
Yeah, I don't know anything about Sandy Powell, so...
There we are. Does anyone know anything about Sandy Powell?
I know he did a sketch with the ventriloquist dummy. That's
right.
I know that much about him.
Have you seen that new ventriloquist website? It's on Gubbly 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 Gob.
Oh, dear.
Incidentally,
yeah.
When's there's this singing nun coming on? It says musical accompaniment nun. It says here.
Oh, dearie me. Were you on Neighbours, Tim? Were you on Neighbours?
Was I on Neighbours?
Yeah, it says on Wikipedia you're on Neighbours.
Well, I had like a cameo.
Did you?
Yeah. Well, it wasn't even a cameo actually because they didn't know who I was. So it was like a part where I was just outside Lassiter's asking directions.
Okay.
What happened was I was doing the Melbourne Comedy Festival and I said to my agent, as a bit of a joke actually, see if you can get me on Neighbours. And he knew someone who worked at Fremantle or something, which is connected to that. And because they got a call from Fremantle, I think they must have thought I was some sort of huge star that, you know, you must put him on, whoever this guy is. So they said, well, you know, you can either be doing your act in Lassiter's or you can ask directions. And I said, I'd like to ask directions, please.
Good.
Yeah. So it was the moment my acting career peaked.
Yeah, do a lot of acting. What generation of Neighbours was that in the 2000s?
Oh, I didn't recognise anybody there. No, it was, in fact, there were two people arguing about the newspaper. It was like they came out of this room going, well, I told you this, and I da-da-da, in American accents, weirdly. And then I asked directions, so it was all very confusing. But it was sunny and it was magical. I thought, what am I doing here?
So they didn't know who you were, you didn't know who they were. It might not have even been neighbours. It might just have been having an argument in a bar.
That's true, actually.
Let's look at your next clip, which is a Dean Martin roast.
Yes. Now, I love Dean Martin anyway, but this isn't really about Dean Martin. This is about a guy called Foster Brooks. I don't know whether you've seen Foster Brooks, but he basically, in a sense, he has one joke, and the joke is he's pretending to be drunk. But it is so funny. I mean, it's one of my favourite comedy clips. This would be in my top 10 ever funny clips. But I also love the whole glamour of the 70s thing. At one point, at the very end of the clip, you see Jack Klugman, he was Quincy, sitting there laughing. And throughout, you know, Dean Martin's there with a cigarette, you know, like this laughing away. And I love that whole sort of the thing around it. But mostly, it's Foster Brooks who is just so funny, you know.
Okay, let's have a look at that one.
Our next speaker has never met Don Rickles. Boy, that's a lucky guy. But he asked especially if he could come here tonight just to pay tribute to him. Ladies and gentlemen, would you please welcome Mr. Foster Brooks. Thank you very much. As the Puerto Rican gentleman just told you, I have never met Don Rickles. In fact, he's probably wondering what I'm doing here. He has never even seen. He has never seen me before. He has never heard of me, and our paths have never crossed. However, Mr. Rickles, you and I do have an indirect relationship. You see, I'm fooling around with your wife. So you see, we do have something in common. I hope you understand, Don, that we have tried to keep this very, very discreet. So don't tell anybody, will you? My wife would be furious if she found out about it. Don, I really must compliment you on your spouse, Mrs. Pickles. I say that because she's a real dilly. And I must also admit you have a very lovely home. Incidentally, you're out of scotch. And if you happen to think of it, pick up some pretzels.
I love that thing. It reminds me a bit of, although a totally different thing, Norman Collier, who I could have easily have chosen a clip from as well, sure. who has the thing with the mic going off, you know, that thing, which is, you know, it's sort of it's such a clever thing, but it's one thing, but it's just and I was lucky enough to do a gig with him once, and watch him doing that live, and it just each time he does it, it doesn't get any less funny each time. So it's great having. If you've got something like that in your armoury, where you can just keep doing the same thing over and over again.
Pen behind the ear. That's why you could just be pen behind the ear guy. Forget everything else.
Well, I mean, you have to remember that that's really there's a big cheer at the end is partially relief.
So let's move on. This is someone we both know and you've worked with, Jim Tavray.
Yeah, well, I chose this one partly for sentimental reasons. My dad thought this was a hilarious sketch, and I've thought it was hilarious as well, and still do. But I am actually in this sketch myself. Just at the very end, I walk on as just the back of my head. But essentially, it's Jim running through ridiculous names for places. Sketches don't really need. Imagine a sketch show where someone had to introduce each sketch, which I'm doing.
The idea of this sketch.
Exactly, yeah. The idea of this sketch is, how to completely kill a moment.
So this is from the sketch show that you were in with Jim.
Yes, I was. It was called The Sketch Show, and it was on ITV. Excuse me. I should have brought some pastels with me. I love painting.
You know, I suspect that he's been putting on the cough all the way through, just so.
Well, no, actually, I have got some pastels with me, so I will
have a pastel during this clip.
Yes, that's a good idea. That's a better use of the time. I agree. But as I say, it was with the sketch show was with myself, Lee Mack, who I eventually did Not Going Out with, Ronnie Ancona, and Karen Taylor, and Jim Tavray. So that was the five of us, and we did 2 series of it, and. It did very well in Australia, actually. It didn't do much over here. It sort of sank without a trace a bit. They moved it around a bit and then just went off. But it was I watched this and I remember that my dad loved this, and so it has that extra thing attached to it. But I think it's very funny.
OK, let's have a look at Jim Tavray.
Just have the pastels.
Have a pastel, quick. It started.
OK, we leave our camp here at Limpopo, following the Nanganga Road as far as the Talifu Bridge over the river Wampuli, where we'll cross into the village of Mastuto and be met by Bonghi Hocken guys who will lead us through the Chaka-Chaka-Hee-Hee-Mee jungle across Sambadi-Bee-Bardabadi, where we'll camp under the May tree. The outskirts of the Dangi Dongde Donga. At dawn next day, we take the Kakache High Kakahoodoo Doodle Trail as far as Pudahode Fudu Pass, arriving at Fahe Bum Bum Ketateme Gorge at 1100 hours 30. You're late, Vine. Just for you. We leave our camp here and here.
Lovely Jim Tavray, who used to do an act with a double bass.
He did, if you remember. He was extremely. It was very well established on the comedy circuit. Probably when you and I started, he was one of the sixth formers in existence, wasn't he? Yeah. So he was, and he was always did all the the big clubs. Always stormed it. Had a fantastic act with a double bass. I mean, now this pastor is fantastic. He now I went to a sweet shop, by the way. I said, "Do you do Twix?" He said, "I'm quite good at juggling." But he now...
It's better with a pastel in your mouth,
It
that
is, isn't
joke
it,
as well.
weird, yeah.
You should always have a pastel in your mouth when you do that one.
I said, can you give me some dark chocolate? He gave me a curly whirly and turned my lights off. Anyway, Jim now lives in Los Angeles, doesn't he? And I'm glad to say he's in good health now because he was in a very bad car crash, wasn't he, last year or year before. So it's great that he's recovering and still doing it.
He's done a great show about.
Yes, so
about
did you do? Is it that was that?
That was a lot. I haven't seen it, but I've heard
No,
I've seen great reviews of it, and it's called From Deadpan to Bedpan or vice versa.
Yeah,
something like that. And it's he was a horrific car accident. He's very.
He was very lucky. Yeah, very
so,
lucky. But we always had me and Jim used to. I used to enjoy just hanging out with him anyway on the during the days of filming the sketch show. He's just a very funny person to hang around with.
Yeah,
he's very funny.
He's in Harry Potter.
He is, isn't he? Yeah, what's he playing Harry Potter?
I want to say he's the bus conductor or bus driver. Anyone correct me on that?
Innkeeper.
Fuck you. It's good
That
how
one
few people
person.
correct. It's just no. That's Lenny Henry.
The innkeeper.
The innkeeper. He's the innkeeper at the Gobbledygook. I don't really like Harry Potter that much, I have to say, so I'm not that much into it. I played Harry Potter Trivial Pursuits with my wife and her family.
How did you get
They
on?
all really like Harry Potter. I've never played Trivial Pursuit where I've done so badly. I literally knew nothing.
And you can have an entire Trivial Pursuit game on Harry Potter?
Yeah, you can.
Are there enough questions?
Well, apparently, and they're all insane.
Wow. Yeah, I haven't got any Harry Potter jokes, else this would be the moment.
It would be a great moment to do it. Want to make one up? Let's see you in action. Let's see how the... Let's see.
So, so I said to Harry Potter, well, that's a good setup for it, isn't it? Give me a... I'll try and think of that, what to do next.
Have a think during this next clip. We're going to now go to Bilko.
Bilko.
So it's...
Again, I was raised on Bilko. My dad used to wake me at... there was a particular point when it was on BBC Two, I think, at about midnight, and he used to wake me up and say, we're going to watch Bilko. And I had this little black and white telly next to my bed, and he'd sit on the edge of the bed. I'd sort of prop myself up like that, and kind of... I think I would probably drift off a bit, because it was quite... He'd woken me up. And he'd sit there and watch things. But I've always loved Bilko. I mean, there's so many episodes. There's still episodes I haven't seen. To us. I think it was 160 episodes. So I need to keep ploughing through the box set. But one of the most famous episodes. This one probably is helped by having a little bit of an explanation. When I did Slapstick Festival a few years ago, I did a whole thing about why I love Bilko, and we presented 2 episodes, and one of them was this episode where a monkey is accidentally enrolled into the US Army. So this is just a short clip from the process where the monkey is in the system and Bilko has realised it and is panicking, is trying to stop this monkey from becoming enrolled in the army, which obviously would be a disaster. And he can't seem to get the whole process to stop. But anyway, you can see from this.
Have a look.
Sir, you've got to stop the line, sir.
Of course. Long enough for you to collect a bet that we won't finish on schedule.
Oh, the Colonel doesn't make jokes, sir. Sir, I must see you.
Bilko, get back to your station.
Squad 7B, take off your shoes. Get ready for foot clinic.
Foot clinic? Oh, no.
Edwin Dubrow.
Declivity, left arch.
Check.
Next.
John D.K.
Okay.
Check.
Next.
Harry, speak up.
There's a stoppage at foot clinic. Foot clinic, why aren't you moving?
Something wrong, Captain?
You look at feet all day, it's bound to happen. Next.
Martin Ford.
Incipient bunyan left foot.
Check.
Then there was a stoppage. We lost 10 seconds. What happened?
Nothing. Next.
Sir, Bilko, there's no sign. I have to take one of the men out of the line. Out of what? Sir, he isn't what you think he is.
That's for the psychiatrist to find out. They're heading there now.
Psychiatrist!
You know, and sometimes my impersonations get so great that I think I'm going to go.
Thank
you. Follow the line. Next, Harry, speak up. Well, Harry, be free to talk now. Do you love your mother and father? Any frustrations? Do you dream? Are your dreams better with child frustrations? Calm down, young man. Do you like girls? Be free to talk about it. Any insanity in your family? Father, mother, grandfather? All right, next. All right, Bill Benson. Bill, tell me about your mother and father. Were they kind to you when you were a child? What about your aunt?
Sir, please, just don't say anything until the general is off the post, please.
What are you talking about?
You know, this Harry Speak Up.
What about Harry? I just had a nice chat with him. He's going to be all right.
And I knew more about Top Cat than Bilko. Top Cat was
Yeah.
based on...
Well, Top Cat was based on Bilko, wasn't
Yeah.
it? And it used to... excuse me. But it used to have the titles Boss Cat, didn't it?
Yes, it did.
That was extra confusing, wasn't it?
It's
So it was
because,
Top Cat, and it was going Boss Cat. As a child, you just, well, I guess this is the way they do things. And yeah, the whole thing was based on... And I think the guy playing Benny was actually the guy who played Doberman.
Oh, was it?
In Bilko, yeah.
Okay.
TC. Hey, TC. That's the other one. I can do him a bit better. But hey, Sarge. Yeah.
And wasn't the Flintstones based on the Honeymooners? Is that the right? I never saw the Honeymooners.
Oh, I never saw the Honeymooners.
No.
No. And what
One
about
right about that?
Scooby-Doo?
Non-comedy nerds. Oh, thanks.
Oh, okay.
Got one right, did I?
Who was in the Honeymooners?
Pardon? Jackie Gleason.
Jackie Gleason.
And
Officer
Simon Harris, wasn't it? No, yes, good.
Yeah,
we didn't have it here, did we? Didn't have it here. So let's just check. I just wanted to see
Yes,
how
that's a
sound
good
doing
idea,
for time.
yeah. Oh, you've got a nice
1757. We're meant to be at 1758 for Larry Grayson.
All right, well, I
think I've timed
can
it
do a watch
perfectly.
joke.
Okay.
I went to the watch shop. I said, I want to buy a watch. He said, analog. I said, no, just the watch. That applause started at the back of the room, then got further away. How does that work?
Larry Grayson.
Now, Larry Grayson. I wanted to include Larry Grayson because I think he is, despite the fact that he was a household name and hosted the Generation Game, I think he's very underrated as a comedian. When they used to do those, I was in one of those lists where they have top 100 comedians on Channel 4, and Larry Grayson was not in there at all, you know. Now, I suppose you could argue maybe someone like Bruce Forsyth wasn't in there as well, but Bruce Forsyth is a comedian, but he's also so much more than that as well. But, I mean, Bruce Forsyth is a complete legend. He could be on this list as well. But what I love about Larry Grayson is it's just all the looks and stuff, you know.
I mean, I was worried about one of the goodies dying during the interview. I thought I was safe with the relatively young Tim Vine.
Sorry, everyone. No, it's all the. He used to do lots of those kind of look like that, and then just go like that, and it was just totally hilarious, you know. And apparently he used to come up with a lot of these non sequiturs that he'd say from when he was living in digs, and there was a shared phone outside where he was living, and he used to hear half of conversations. Right. And so he used to do things where he'd look at someone in the audience randomly and he'd go, "Thank you, mother, for the rabbit." Now, it was just very random. He obviously heard someone say something like that on one end of a phone. But I mean, it's just the way he does it. Well, I found it quite hard to find a very specific part because there's so many bits. So it's not so much a comedy moment, although I just love Larry Grayson. But there's so much of his stuff I love, you know. So I mean, how would you? It's a bit like with Tommy Cooper or something. How would you bring it down to just one moment? You know, it's in his act, in his hands. It's just all. It's Tommy Cooper.
Yeah.
It's perfect, you know. So I love Larry Grayson.
Okay,
and here's a clip of him doing his thing.
Oh, dear, it wears me out those steps. Oh, dear, I've gone all limp. How are you? Had a nice week. I still have to sit down. I've gone all giddy. You know. Well, I've had a lovely week for a change, but last Friday, I was lying in bed, because I'm not an early riser, you know. And I was lying in bed, thinking to myself, I wonder when they'll revive the Maid of the Mountains. And I lay there. And then I thought, I'll get up and make myself a nice cup of tea and have a bit of Cracker Barrel. So I came downstairs and I sat there and in, well, about 10 minutes. And there's a knock on my knocker. Well, I wasn't expecting anyone. I said, come in. Well, it was Apricot Lil with her new teeth. So she couldn't speak for 2 minutes, and I said, sit down, and the rattling stopped, and she said, has Slack Alice approached you? I said, many times. She said, no, she said, about this new Keep Fit class. I said, I've never heard of it. Well, she's got a new, oh dear. She said, places alive. She said, now, why don't you go and have a do at it? She said, you know, as Slack said, you could do it, you know, a bit of Keep Fit, so, well, you know me. I'll try, eh? I'll try anything once. Twice if I like it.
I mean, they've released on the network DVD, they've released, he did a show called The Larry Grayson Show, and there's like 2 series of, I don't know, there's about 20 episodes there. Right, so and he comes out at the beginning and does this sort of monologue thing at the beginning of each one, and I just love it. It's fantastic, really, really. As I say, there's something, it's the whole rhythm of it. It's so original, that whole sort of, you know, he paints this little weird world, and it's all very camp, and it's just very, very funny. You know?
It's sort of bold as well, isn't it? Because there's those stand-ups who, you know, are ready with jokes, and those stand-ups that, in a way, if you saw that written down, you might go, wait.
Yeah, no, exactly, exactly.
So, you know, it's
and also,
quite surreal. And
the thing, as was with a lot of the comedians that we would have seen in the 70s, 70s particularly, but going into the 80s, was a lot of those people had been doing their acts for 25 years before they were properly given their own show on television. Now, I don't know about you, but I first went on television after about doing it for 2 years, which was really far too quick. But someone like Larry Grayson, his first TV appearance, he was in his 50s. Yeah. So he had been doing this act for a very, very long time, and it was very finely honed. He knew that if you put a group of people in front of him, he knew exactly how to make them laugh. You know, he would make them roar with laughter. So you know, like you say, if you read the thing on the page, you might think, I'm not sure. How does this, which is, you know, one of the problems with comedy a bit, isn't it? When you're trying to get things off the ground, people look at them and go, well, they hear their own voices doing the joke, and that never works.
Well, I think it's also interesting that, you know, and yes, similarly, me and Stu were on TV within sort of, we were 26 or 27, we'd been going for about 4 or 5 years.
Which is great, isn't it?
It's great, but also, I mean, but even now, it's even quicker than that for some people.
Yeah, well, it's also changed a bit now. It's very much a young person's thing, whereas in the past, I think it was, you were, I mean, the comics were sort of 40s and 50s, weren't they? That was the age of comedians generally were that we saw on television, you know. And then it kind of got, with the alternative thing, people got younger, and I think it's getting younger and younger all the time now. You know? It's like dart players, they're getting better and better, aren't they? They're all aged about 13, they're brilliant, aren't they?
It's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's sort of, I think that point you make about the experience and working out what you're going to do and work out who you are, because I think it does take a while to settle into yourself as a comedian, doesn't it, really? I think, and know and the persona is...
Yeah, because there's something slightly, I think there's something tragic about being a comedian, but when you get a bit older, I don't know, there's some extra layer in there. Blimey, is he still doing it? You know, which is sort of almost adds to the humour of it. You know?
Well, I think with me and Stu, when we worked through our 20s basically together and stopped when we were pretty much 30. And I think we both felt, even then, it'll be funny again if we start doing it when we're 60. And 2 men bickering at 60 is kind of funnier than 2 men bickering when they're 30, really. I mean, it's Morecambe and Wise, whatever, but it's...
Well, maybe you should bring it back. You're not, you know, another 9 years.
It's not too far off. He'll never survive. He's never... Have you seen him? Who's going to go first? That's the question.
Well...
Can't wait to laugh.
Me, I think.
It might be you. Let's move on. It's another sketch show sketch.
Oh, it is, isn't it? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Now, in this one, I'm in this one. But this is it was a sketch that Lee Mack wrote, and it's me and Lee, and we play wrestlers, and it was particularly based on that thing that we all was a received thing that wrestling was essentially fixed, and
yes.
you know, it was all theatre and stuff, you know. But whereas, you know, in now we all know that, whereas in the 70s there was almost an argument about it, wasn't it? About, you know, people go, no, come on, it's all fixed. Some people go, no, it's not. No, it really isn't. You know. But anyway, so that's the sketch is based around this. But it's. I'm not saying it's one of the funniest things you've ever seen ever, but for me, I enjoy watching it, and it makes me laugh, and it reminds me of a happy time in my life.
Oh, excellent. Let's have a look.
What the hell were you doing out there?
What do you mean?
You were supposed to be counting out the 5th.
No, you were supposed to get counted out. We agreed beforehand.
We did not. We said that I almost get counted out in the 4th, and then you actually get counted out.
No, we didn't, you idiot.
Don't call me an idiot.
Or else what?
I'll smack you in the face.
Idiot.
Right.
What did you do that for?
I warned you not to call me an idiot.
There's no need for that, you pillock.
Oh, pillock now, is it?
Yeah, pillock and idiot.
Right. Finished.
Have you?
Let that be a lesson to you.
I think you might have got away with not saying that was you in there. I think people might not have realised.
No, I had a luscious head of hair in those days. Yeah. But yeah, so no, and Lee wrote a lot of things for the sketch show, and I wrote a few things as well. But later on, when I was in Not Going Out, I mean, his sort of appetite for writing and just is incredible, and just the work that he does on Not Going Out. I mean, I always think to myself that he ought to have some sort of burnout, but he just keeps on going. He loves it. Yeah. Loves it.
Did you see the live episode at Christmas?
Yes, I did, which I thought was brilliant. Yeah. And also, I felt genuinely nervous for them, because I thought, wow, we are really... It felt like watching, when you watch the first take on the night of a record, where you go, oh, yes, they've done it, great, we've got that one, you know. But you think, well, actually, we're not going to... If it goes wrong, we're not going to stop. But it looked, yeah, I don't think I could have done that.
Could you have done the Element song live? That was a very brave...
Yes, yeah, indeed. Yeah.
brave moment. Great. So, this next clip is another hero of our generation, I think, which is Kenny Everett.
Yes.
Were you allowed to watch it? Because I wasn't really allowed to watch ITV to begin with. It was ITV to begin with, and then he skipped across the...
As long as your parents weren't in the room for hot gossip.
Yeah.
I think generally you sort of got away with it, but it was the period of time that was beautiful about it was that there were, I don't know whether there were 3 channels or maybe 4 channels then, I'm not sure, but maybe just 3 then.
3, I think.
3, I think, yeah. So you go into school the following day, and your whole class, we'd all seen the same thing. We all had seen Kenny Everett the night before, you know. And it's that thing, I mean, Barry Cryer, of course, who's attached to the Slapstick Comedy Festival, was right in the midst of it all, and that's, you know, a wonderful thing because Kenny Everett was just brilliant. There's just such a joie de vivre in it. I used to love the fact in the early series there wasn't sort of a laughter track, or there wasn't even an audience like a big studio audience even. It was just like a group. It was like the crew, and you know, like they gathered round like 15 people.
Yeah.
And it was just that made it all the more real, and it was just brilliant. I loved it.
Sure.
So again, there's so many. The trouble with the Kenny Everett thing, I think Network are releasing all the Kenny Everett shows, which will be great. And if they'd released that in time, I could have had a proper look and found something. But this is one of the sketches I remember.
Okay.
Yes.
Does it need any introduction? Let's not introduce it.
No, I know, it's terrible.
Let it speak for itself.
Sketch introductions.
We'll talk about it afterwards and see what we thought. Let's have a look.
Sorry about that, sir.
Just had to do the opening.
Well, get on with it.
Here's the first sketch.
Is that the first sketch?
Yes, sir.
Oh, my God.
I mean, the thing that he used to do with Sid Snot, if you remember, Sid Snot used to have the cigarettes and he'd try and throw them into his mouth.
Yes.
That's a bit, you know, probably, you know, would be something that would be I would have received and somehow come back out again as pen behind the ear. You know, this, you know, that was, you know, it's just brilliant. He was, and also it was just very, very cool as well. It wasn't quite like the other comedy that we'd seen up till then. So it really, we all bought into it at the age we saw it, which would have been, I don't know, 11
And it's
or
interesting,
12.
I suppose the DJ background is quite, it came from a different background than any of the other people who were working on telly at that.
Yeah,
so he's in comedy.
Yeah, and so he was trying different things out visually and stuff as well. So it was, yeah, no, it's great.
And then Noel Edmonds took over the mantle of doing comedy on telly.
Did he? Oh, with Mr. Blobby and
yeah,
stuff.
all that sort of stuff. I think I prefer Kenny Everett on balance.
I think if I could do that balance now, I would agree with you. Yes.
Well,
I think Noel Edmonds would agree with you as well. Though.
Yeah, I don't think he would. Right, well, let's move on. We've got Lauren Hardy, and you've chosen something from Toad in the Hole.
Everybody loves Lauren Hardy, and this is a wonderful clip. I mean, again, you know, there's so many amazing clips. It's all warm and hilarious and funny, and I love them.
Okay, let's have a look. Very good. It's hard to top them.
I know it is.
It's just it's such a perfect double act in that they're both so stupid, but there's a hierarchy to the stupidity.
Yeah, yeah. And yet you root for them and everything. And it's just you know, and it's yeah. Well, then it has a great nostalgia with you know if you've been brought up watching all these things, you know, then it. And it doesn't age either. Weirdly, it's still funny, even though it's black and white, and it's still.
Well, it's incredible. I think with comedy, it's very difficult. I think for comedy to survive through the ages.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, usually 10 years is enough to you know kill off a lot of things, just as tastes change.
Yeah,
so it's
I know
extraordinary.
it.
That's 80 or 90 years. Yeah. But it's some things do survive, but not very much. And often you'll look back at something and go, why did people think that was funny? I mean, I look back for me, I look back at a lot of that era of comedy, and you go, okay, you know, it's not. There was a W.C. Fields film on earlier here, and you go, okay, it could have taken half an hour out of that quite comfortably. There's some great stuff in it, but you know, with Lauren and Hardy, it always feels kind of the freshness to it.
Yeah,
because
no, I agree.
it's the characters, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, yeah.
So, and have you seen Stan and Ollie yet? The Steve.
I haven't. I'm definitely going to go and see it. I've heard great things about it, and
yes,
so I can't wait. Yeah, yeah. Have you all seen that? Yes. Oh. Thank you. There speaks the.
Lovely.
The voice of the audience.
Some of it filmed down here, of course.
Was it?
Yeah. I think was it here or was it one of the other theatres? Yeah.
Was it?
Mm. Mm. Oh, we're very proud of it down here in Bristol.
Do you know? I said to my mum, I said I want to buy a theatre. She said, "Are you having me on?" I said, "I'll give an audition, but I can't promise."
Oh, I'm glad you're here.
How are we doing for time?
We're all right. We're bang on. I mean, like we could. It's 8. Well.
Oh, we're under, are we?
We were meant to just have started looking at that last clip, but I'm pretty pleased because we thought we'd come.
That clip there.
Yeah, 1817.
Yeah.
Lauren Hardy.
There's another one there.
We're going to chat for 5 minutes and then hold on. The next one.
There is one more clip.
There is one more clip we've got to go through, and. Again, slightly arrogantly.
Is this slightly arrogantly? I'm in it. But it's more of a little tribute thing to my dad, really, because, as I say, you know, I think for a lot of us boys, I think, you know, get a lot of our first experiences of comedy from our dad being silly or showing us various things. And the first joke I was ever told in this world was told to me by my dad. And during a show, I thought to myself, I was filming a DVD, and I thought I'd bring him up and get him to retell that joke, and I could use it as a DVD extra.
And nice, good thinking.
Yeah.
It's heartwarming, but also commercial and economic value.
Exactly,
Well
it's both those things. But I mean, it's just my dad telling a joke, and but you know, seeing as he introduced me to Bilko and all these other things, I would say without my dad, I probably wouldn't have the same sense of humour. So.
Okay, that's lovely. Let us have a look at Tim Vine's dad and Tim Vine.
Hey, I've got a good idea. Shall I get my dad up to tell a joke to you all? Yeah! What a great idea. Come on, that's a great idea. Right, that could be an extra. I filmed it once before, but it'd be fun to do it here. Ladies and gentlemen, let's hear it from my dad! Here he is! Oh, the stairs over there, here. Mr. Guy Vine, ladies and gentlemen, there he is. I can't move to the centre of the stage here. Right. The point about this is that my dad, the first joke I ever heard was told to me by my dad, and he's now going to tell it to me. If you can remember it, can you remember it? I didn't prime you. If I'd have told you this was coming up, you would have been a nervous wreck the entire evening. So here we go. This is the first joke I ever heard. Look, he's keen.
There's three rather deaf old ladies going down the road.
What? Pardon, very good.
Very good. Three rather deaf old ladies going down the road. The first one says, "It's windy today." The second one said, "No, it's not. It's Thursday." And the third one says, "So am I. Let's go and have a cup of tea."
He did it! Guy Vine! Oh, hang on. He wants to do the rest of his act.
Why I'm so fearful of doing that thing is if I start off, instead of saying, "It's windy today," I say, "It's Wednesday today," and it ruins the whole thing.
Oh, great. Well, that's good. Something good's come out of the encore. That'll be an extra.
Very nice. And presumably he spent your brother's youth ringing him up and espousing insane views to him so that he could become a...
That's right,
a
yes,
radio...
yes, that's right, yeah.
He does look like you.
He showed me Bilko, but he used to wake my brother up to watch the news. Yeah.
He does look. He looks a lot like your brother.
He does look like my brother. Yeah. But he was a very naturally funny man.
Yeah.
He used to, you know, when he walked past the sundial in the garden, he'd always look at it and go, "Is that the time?" Yeah. So he sort of had a natural sort of dry humour about him. I'll just tell you one other thing. That one time I went into the kitchen and he was holding two jars of yogurt, two things of yogurt, and I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "I can't decide which one of these yogurts to have, the black cherry or the peach melba." He said, "I know, I'll toss a coin." So he tossed a coin like that, and he looked at it and he went, "Oh no, it's peach melba." So a very funny man. So you know, I got my sense of humour from him.
I think it's nice. That's that's guess as a comedian and getting interested in comedy. I was interested in comedy straight away. And it was a lot to do with my grandfather. I think he was very influenced by Chaplin actually. Although looking at Laurel, I think my other granddad was very like Stan Laurel. But yeah, it's interesting how it's sort of embedded in. Do you think it's innate? Do you think you would have been a comedian regardless? I mean, you can't say regardless of your father because your father is why you.
I don't think I would have. I don't think I would have. No, I just. Yeah, I think well, there's no way of knowing, is there? But I think I would have just been a different person. So. Probably I wouldn't have been a comedian.
It's difficult to say, but yeah, it is. You know, it's having that love of. I think when I was talking to the Goodies, I just sort of remembered times when you were just all watching the Goodies as a family and all laughing. Exactly. You know, and it doesn't happen very much anymore. I think because families don't really watch things together anymore, do they?
No. Well, I also remember my dad watching, and again, people who aficionados will be able to tell me the answer to this. The Buster Keaton film where he's on a boat and the rudder breaks and he ends up steering with his bum in the water, and I can't think what it is, but I remember it was a Saturday afternoon, and my dad and I, I don't know how, I was about 10 or something, we just got some lunch, we stuck the telly on, and that was on. And I just remember my dad with a little tray of food, and he's just laughing. I like the fact that he was the sort of person who could turn on the telly, something was on, and within like 5 minutes he's splitting his sides. You know, he had a very simple sort of approach to. He wasn't a worrier, my dad. So I just that's those sorts of memories are great, you know.
Yeah. Great. Well, look, Tim, it's been lovely to talk to you. Thanks for battling through your...
Well, it's been really tough, but we made it.
Yeah, fantastic choices and some stuff I knew and some stuff I didn't know, so thank you for introducing me to some new things.
Thank you for having me.
I'm going to be getting your dad's, the DVD of the rest of your dad's act.
Yes, there's a lot of stuff there.
Watching
Guy Vine live. It's quite short, but it's brilliant.
Ladies and gentlemen, give a massive round of applause to Tim Vine. How fantastic.
Thank you.
I think we can go.
Do I walk off now?
I think, well, let's go. There's another one with the In-Betweeners people after this, so come along if you want, if you haven't got a ticket, and see you later. Thank you very much. Tim Vine, ladies and gentlemen.